When you get a stomachache today, you just kind of assume you ate something bad, right? Or maybe caught a bug.
Yeah, exactly. There's a physiological reason.
Right. But imagine having that same physical distress like 500 years ago and being told it's because your neighbor cursed you. It's wild. Anyway, I'm playing the curious student today with all the questions.
And I will gladly step into the lecture role for this deep dive. We're actually pulling from section 15.3 of chapter 15 from Psychology 2E today. To trace this massive evolution, we are looking at how humanity went from diagnosing demonic possession to actually mapping our own genetics.
It's such a huge jump because you'd think the leap from witchcraft to genetics took, I don't know, millennia.
Yeah.
But section 15.3 paints a much more chaotic picture. For centuries, it was all about black magic and angry spirits. So what's the most surprising historical example from the reading?
Well, first, it's worth noting these supernatural beliefs actually still exist in some places, like parts of modern-day Nigeria. But historically, it has to be dancing mania. Between the 11th and 17th centuries, thousands of people in Western Europe just started dancing.
Wait, like dancing for fun?
No, a total wild abandon. We're talking for days or even weeks. They would dance until their feet literally bled.
Oh, wow. That is terrifying. How did people at the time even rationalize that?
Oh, demonic possession was definitely the go-to answer. Same thing for these reports of 16th and 17th century nuns foaming at the mouth, convulsing, and confessing to, carnal relations with devils.
That is so intense, but obviously it wasn't actually magic.
Right.
So what was really happening?
Right, so historian John Waller proposed a really fascinating theory. People were enduring severe, basically unbearable psychological distress from famines and plagues.
Ah, so they were already on edge.
Exactly. Combine that extreme stress with a culture that deeply believed in spiritual curses, and you get this potent social contagion.
I see. Meaning, when people were pushed to the absolute brink, their brains just kind of defaulted to this culturally expected trance state. They acted out the script society handed them.
That's exactly it. The cultural belief fueled the behavior. But, well, once the scientific revolution took hold, that obsession with curses began to fade away.
We stopped looking for demons in the sky and started looking under microscopes. That's the biological perspective, right?
Right. Researchers started noticing that psychological disorders often correlated with tangible physical issues, things like chemical imbalances or actual brain abnormalities.
Okay, but how much of this is actually inherited? Like, what does the textbook say about genetics?
It uses schizophrenia to illustrate the genetic link. Basically, as your genetic similarity to someone with the disorder increases, so does your risk.
Yeah, the numbers on identical twins really caught my eye. They share 100% of their genes, right?
Yep, 100%.
And if one has schizophrenia, the other's risk of developing it is nearly 50%, which is incredibly high. But, I mean, it's not 100%.
Yeah.
So biology clearly isn't the whole story.
Exactly. The environment has to play a trigger role. Which brings us to the diathesis-stress model. It proposes that disorders originate from a delicate fusion of biological and psychosocial factors.
Okay, break that down for me.
Sure. So you have the diathesis, which is the underlying predisposition, and that collides with an adverse environmental event, which is the stress.
Oh, I get it. So if we're translating this, the diathesis is essentially like a pile of dry firewood, and the stress is the match.
Right.
That is a perfect analogy, yes.
So the drier the wood, the smaller the match needed.
Precisely. If that firewood is bone dry, meeting a very high genetic predisposition, it only takes a tiny spark of environmental stress to start the fire. The stress required is inversely proportional to the diathesis.
Wow. Okay, so someone with a really low predisposition would need a massive catastrophic stressor to trigger the same disorder. Right. It is an interconnected, highly dynamic system.
That makes so much sense. It really highlights a massive shift in human understanding. We journeyed from blaming demonic possession and dancing manias all the way to mapping brain chemistry and this nuanced diathesis-stress model.
Yeah, we moved away from supernatural fear and toward honestly profound scientific empathy. We are finally looking at the true causality behind human suffering.
It leaves you with a lingering thought, though. We went from blaming witchcraft to mapping genetic heritability in just a few centuries.
It's pretty incredible when you think about it.
It really is. Think about that hidden dry firewood waiting for a match. What invisible environmental or biological triggers for mental health will future generations discover that we are completely blind to today?